Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Just a little information about this bridge program coming up at Shri Yoga starting March 11th. Want to just first say who is the training for? And so I've got a couple different things here because as we heard, as you all introduced yourself, there's a lot of different reasons that you might be interested in taking this program. Originally, this curriculum was developed specifically for students who had completed a 200-hour yoga teacher training in another style other than Anusara, and then were interested in moving on to the Anusara 300-hour training. And so we created this curriculum so that people wouldn't have to go back and take the entire 200 hours in Anusara to apply for the 300-hour training. When we do the 300-hour specific training, just in case that's something that you're thinking of doing, the bridge program will really prepare you for that and give you some foundation so that you can deepen a lot of the core principles and techniques, not only of practice, but also of teaching, because in Anusara, we have some very specific teaching methodology. And so this is a prerequisite, this first bullet point, that you've completed a 200-hour, which it sounds like all of you have, and that you've been teaching for 2 years. So that's just what we ask, that you've completed that before you enter this program. And then sounds like a lot of you have also gone on and completed a 500-hour teacher training. And so it's possible for students who have done their entire training in another style but have been introduced to Anusara and are interested in incorporating some of that methodology into their training. This might also be for Anusara teachers or students who maybe took a training a couple of years ago and they haven't done any teacher training in a while, and they would like to do some continuing education and brush up on some of their information and skills, or participate in a group, because also participating in a group like this will do a lot of practice. And so there's an opportunity for you to practice your skills. And then, yeah, just this last part is to reiterate, if you've done your full training in another style, but you're interested in moving more towards an Anusara training, then this training is for you. Any thoughts or questions on any of that? I'll leave some time at the end for more questions, but just to make sure that that's clear. Yeah, okay, great. So the main things that we'll be covering in this training are teaching with a theme as the first one. And I'll just say, as a teacher, that I find that this is a really central element of Anusara. So like Chaya mentioned, for her, that when she takes an Anusara class, she feels that it accomplishes what she needs. It meets her needs and it touches her on the physical level, but also the mental and the emotional level. And so this is really a hallmark of our style in Anusara, not just how to pick a theme or that we even have a theme, but specifically how we weave in something that affects someone on the mental and emotional level into movement. And this is very powerful. It takes a lot of practice, but we've got some good methods to help not only how to hone in on a theme and pick something that is universal and clear, but then how to translate that into a movement class. So that's something we'll be going through. And then teaching with the UPAs, or Universal Principles of Alignment. So it sounds like most of you have had some exposure to that. And so we'll be very clear about what those principles are, how they function in the body, and then how to teach with those principles in your class. And we'll have time to practice that. Sequencing is another thing that I think is covered in other styles, but in Anusara, we're going to have a very specific approach on how to build a class. And, this is really, I think, like a very fun and creative part of teaching, especially depending on what your theme is, as well as what your overall intention is. That, one of the things that I've really appreciated about being a student of Anusara is that even though there's a very clear method, teachers are unique. And so there are a lot of different ways to teach the universal principles of alignment and to teach the philosophy. I've taken classes that are Anusara teachers that are very gentle. I've taken classes that are Anusara teachers that are very physically intense and deep. And so you can really sequence your class a lot of different ways, depending on what your intention is. And we'll talk about how to do that intelligently. And then one of my favorite topics is observation and adjustment. And so this is going to be, once we are learning not just the principles of alignment, but how those principles are a manifestation of our philosophical understanding of nature. So, my other background, in addition to teaching yoga, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, and it's the same philosophy, it's the same information. And so we learn this art of how to see what we're really looking at and what we're really looking for when we're looking at our students. And because it can be, there's like a lot of information that we're taking in when we're standing in front of a group of people, or if we're teaching online, that really changes our observation. So we'll address both of those things. And then how do we and when do we make adjustments? And this is going to be both verbal and physical. And we have some really specific guidelines for when and how to do that in Anusara. Another topic is going to be just overall this tantric philosophy that underlies the whole method. And really that, again, is what gives rise to the theme. It's also what gives rise to the principles of alignment. They're not just random. They really are an outgrowth of this whole understanding of nature itself. And so that's like one of the really beautiful things about this method, is that once you start to learn the philosophy, you just see it in everything that you do. So we'll give you a real strong foundation in that philosophy and how it applies to the method. And then, like I mentioned before, some other components of methodology that have to do with our very specific teaching methods that have to do with language and demonstration. And just speaking as a teacher, I've taught like other things in other environments. I've done a lot of work with children and stuff like that. I find that the method in Anusara is sound, and it's very helpful for a teacher to have this method in order to organize your teaching, because I find a lot of people who come to teach yoga were very inspired, and we just love yoga so much, and we just want to tell everybody everything, and we've maybe personally had an experience and we want to give that experience to someone else. And so it's really helpful to have some teaching methodology to hone in on exactly what we're saying and when we're saying it and how we're saying it, and to make our message really clear to our students. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover, and this is when we're going to cover it. So just in case you hadn't seen this information on the website, these are the weekends that we've got the program scheduled. This will count for 36 hours of continuing education if that's your hope and purpose for taking the course. And the hours are going to be Eastern time, so starting at 9 and ending at 3:45, and we will take a break in the middle of that to eat and let your mind rest. So we hope that this will work for our friends in different time zones. We are going to record each of the weekends, and so depending on your intention, so if your intention is to go on to an Anusara 300-hour, and Chaya, you can chime in on this too. I want to make sure I have it correct. But if your intention is to go on to a 300-hour Anusara teacher training, then we do ask that you be physically present. Is that true? Yes.
Yeah. So the school, the Anusara School of Hatha Yoga, requests that 75% of any online training is done live online. Up to 25% can be done, afterwards by reviewing videos and doing some additional homework. So, it really depends on where you want to go with this. If you're just looking for CEUs, if you just want to understand the basics, then
It's
that
totally fine.
75-25 is really not so relevant. But if you want to move forward, it becomes more relevant, and we can talk to you individually. If you have a concern or a scheduling issue, you can reach out to me after the session here today.
Thanks, Chaya. Yeah, so if you need to miss a weekend, yeah, like Chaya said, just let us know and we can determine whether, most likely it's totally fine. Everything will be recorded. And we have some special offers. One is that if you register by tomorrow, yes, then we'll give you a free immersion manual as part of your registration. You will need an Anusara immersion manual and a yoga teacher training manual. So the immersion manual is $20. So that's basically a $20 discount. And then the other thing that goes along with what we were just saying in terms of physically participating or watching the recordings later is that after I went through the curriculum and looked at it, this will be the first time I'm teaching the bridge program in particular. We're going to cover some ground in the training. And so I personally just wanted to offer to all of you an hour of coaching, which you can split up into 2 half-hour sessions or 1 session as a way of, okay, so I've got this information now, how is it relevant to me in my teaching? And how can I take this and use it in my teaching in the most effective way? And so coaching is another thing that I do. And so I'm happy to offer that to you to really make sure that the information from this bridge program truly helps you to be more confident and have a deeper impact in your teaching, or however it is that you're trying to use this information just for your own life and personal development. And that's just something you can schedule it anytime during the program or after the program to be completed by the end of May. Okay, great. And so, what do I imagine you will gain by participating in this program? So, like we said, the original purpose of the curriculum was to give you access to an Anusara 300-hour teacher training. If that is your goal, then there will be an exam that you'll take to just make sure that you've got the basics covered. And so that's another thing that if you are planning to go on to a 300-hour teacher training, part of that coaching that I can do with you is to help you to prepare for that exam. And especially if there's anything that you feel you're having trouble with, or that, you just need a little extra help with, that's something that I can help you with. The professional connection that you can make with other teachers in programs like this is really valuable. It was a different type of training, but there was one training in particular I did. It was a coaching training where I made a connection with this one teacher. She lives in Portland, Oregon. I've never met her in person. She's become one of my best friends. So I just think that, not like I'm promising you that you're going to get another best friend, but just I think that the type of connections that we can make in this training are really powerful because, it's not common that we get time to be with people who are also really thinking about yoga in an elevated way and wanting to teach that. So it's really special when we get to spend time with each other in this type of training and to be able to support one another and learn from one another. So that's a great thing. And then there's also this opportunity to practice and hone your skills as a teacher. And I'll just make a guess that most of you are teaching yoga because you have a desire to serve humanity in some way and to share the experience that you've had. And so when we improve our skill as a teacher, when we get clearer in our language, when we get clearer in our ability to give effective cues to people, then it just increases our capacity to really support and to help others. And I'm sure all of you have had that experience just as a student of yoga, just how profound and powerful this practice can be. There's also this ability to integrate some of the Anusara methodology into your class. So even if you're not planning on going further with your Anusara training, these different methods, they're very powerful just in terms of being able to be clear, direct, and effective with students. Okay, so if you'd like to register, here's the link.